Caruana was born and raised in Malta, but after the sudden death of his father, Eddie's mother decided to move the family and join her sister in Australia. He was only 15 at the time.
Pretty traumatic at the time, actually, because, you know, being 15 years old, and my dad passed away 12 months before that, and we were very close. We're more like mates than father and son, really. And all of a sudden, you know, I come to a strange country. We come from a little island back home into a vast country like this, and two sisters and a mum, and my mum, you know, never spoke a word of English and never worked in her life. She had to start all up from, you know, scratch and go to work, and so did us, so did we. It was a bit traumatic, yeah.
Now, Ed, what were your impressions of Australia in the early 60s? Coming from a small island like Malta, it would have been a pretty interesting place in the early 60s.
We stopped, our first stop was Darwin, and I remember coming, it was an old prop plane, you know, KLM Airlines, and the flight from Darwin to Melbourne was 7.5 hours, I think, from memory, and here I am, and you know, looking out the window, and all I can see is red dust for about 6.5 hours, and I said to my mum, what the hell are we going to here? You know, this is the end of the world, there's nothing here. Yeah. And the sight of the buildings in Melbourne when we got close to, you know, to Essendon was sensational.
Now, you found work in something you did like as a motor mechanic, and you worked for Southern Motors and Massey's, and you had to falsify your age, so nobody actually knew for a long period of time just how old you were, Ed.
Yeah, once again, yeah, I was trying to get the more money for the punt. That was always the aim, so you know, put the age up to get full adult wages at 17, 18 years old, so that worked out all right.
Now, not long after arriving in Melbourne, you fared your way out to Olympic Park, and your first night of greyhound racing, and you must have backed a pretty long price winner, Ed, because you were instantly hooked.
Yeah, a family friend took me out there, actually, and I happened to back 25, I think, or 35 to 1 winner at the time. I can't remember exactly, might have been 33 to 1, actually, and that was it. You know, I was there from there on just about nearly every week, and being Olympic Park wasn't far from Carlton, so I just hop on a couple of trams, and that was it. But later on, when I got my own car, and started going to Sandown as well every week. So
It wasn't long before Eddie was racing his own greyhounds with his cousin.
Yeah, that's right. Frank bought a dog, and through circumstances he couldn't afford to keep it after a while, so I went in with him and met up with Roger Selwood at the time. He started training the dog for us, and it wasn't much good. The dog only won the one race, but we from the partnership with Roger, bought into a couple of his dogs that he had as pups, and we had a lot of fun together for many years.
Eddie fluked his first good greyhound when he went to buy his litter mate.
When Roger told me that he had this litter of pups and he said he kept the bitch for himself, I could buy into her, and I said, yeah, that'll do me. And when we went to see him at Johnny Rowan's place in Keysborough at the time, I said, yeah, that's fine, I'll buy the bitch. And there was another little dog there next with her in the same yard, and I said, and what's that? He said, oh, that's just the round of the litter. He said, you don't want that. He said, that's one that I kept for myself because I couldn't sell it. So I said, no, it doesn't matter, I'll buy into that as well. I didn't know much about him at the time, and finished up being half commission. Dog that won, you know, quite a few races for us, and made the final of the Silver Chief. He was within probably a neck of crossing Fitz McTavish at the time, and probably would have got the money, and he won the Bookmakers Handicap at Geelong, and had a lot of fun with it.
Terrific little dog, and he had an unfortunate end. He had a twisted bowel and didn't race on to you know, what he may have potentially.
Yeah, we lost him. I think he was about a month shy of 2.5 years old when he had the twisted bowel, and we lost him. And we had a sister also, the bitch that I initially went to buy. We called her Did You Ever, and she won quite a few races too, so it was good.
Now, Roger eventually gave the training away, but he, to fill in the spare time he had, he became a very successful AFL goal umpire.
He certainly did. One thing Roger did is always, everything was perfection, you know. I remember going to help him with the dogs when we had the machine, you know, ultrasound a dog here and there, and he'd say to me, you have to do 3.5 minutes on that spot, and about the 3 minutes he'd know, you know, so he was very meticulous in what he did. And yeah, so just to keep fit, after I sort of gave the dogs away through unfortunate circumstances, he took up goal umpiring to keep fit, and he finished up doing the '89 Grand Final, the famous Geelong Hawthorn Grand Final.
And of course, it's a famous connection to this year's grand final with Geelong. Roger's brother, of course, is the father of the Selwood brothers.
Yeah, well, Bryce, who remember shifted to Bendigo many, many years ago, and not long after he got married, then they had the 4 boys, and 3 of them, as we know, are playing, different states, and there's 1 more to come, apparently.
Well, they tell him he's the best.
Yeah, well, they always say that, don't they?
They do.
The Maltese community and greyhound racing go hand in hand. An endless list of names, such as Coochie, Galea and Sultana, dominate the chasing landscape.
It is endless, yeah, because we had Joe Healy here, who was top trainer for many years. I don't know what it is, Neil, actually. It's probably the love of the animal more than anything else, but a mate of mine, who you know as well, Neil Peter Wishart, he said he reckons that when we arrived from Malta, there used to be someone from the control board at Station Pier handing out greyhound trainers' licenses to all the Maltese people that arrived.
Eddie Caruana, that's the first part of the Eddie story.
His working life was thrown into disarray when a hip replacement went wrong and had to be redone. Not the best of situations to find yourself in if you're a motor mechanic.
Yeah, unfortunately, the first one wasn't very successful. I didn't know much about it at the time, and I tried to work the franchise, as you said, and the hip went on me again, and I had to have a second operation within 18 months, and it was pretty traumatic at the time because, I just purchased a franchise and all the equipment and all that, just big outlay, and had to sell in a hurry, so they were tough times, real tough times. And
But your friends in greyhound racing really rallied around you at the time, and I think led by MGRA director at the time, John Stevens. They got together and they put on a function at Sandown Park, a Melbourne Cup Calcutta.
It was sensational. It's something I'll never forget, actually. You know who your true friends are when things like that happen. And John Stevens, who's now obviously the Chief Executive Officer of GRV, and at the time Dick Prendergast, also a very good friend, they organised the first Melbourne Cup Calcutta at a restaurant, in Chinese restaurant in the city, Singlish, which went on for many, many years after that, actually, quite successfully. And I remember John coming into the hospital and shook my hands and left something like $3,500 in my hand at the time, which was sensational.
Due to Eddie's health, he had a vocational change and started with television production company Raceplay.
Yeah, through my association with racing, I got to know Brian Martin quite well, and Gary Davis of Tapcore fame, of course, sports bet fame. And I was getting over the operation, as we said, and Brian Martin and Gary Gray just started Raceplay, which was just at the time they were just doing race replays of Metropolitan races, and I used to go in there and do the dubbing for them. And the office that they operated from in Blackburn was that small that I had to go in at night because we couldn't all fit in the office at once. So, but from that grew into a big operation, and they progressed to full race video production. We did a lot of race programs, a lot of studs and stallion promotional videos, TV commercials. Then we started doing marketing for Mulliveta Racing Club and harness racing, and also GRV, greyhound racing as well. So that was 16 years that went for, so that was good.
I'm Bill Collins.
Yeah, a large body of work in that 16 years, and some really some productions that you'd be very proud of that are on the racing shelves of many people, I'm sure, some of those old videotapes, Ed. Yeah,
Cox Plate and Superimposed, Belarus and Up, all those great champions we've featured on, on video. And as you say, Sky Channel actually for many years they used to run them as fillers, and before racing become wall-to-wall. They used to use them as fillers. It was good, and they bring some good memories.
Ed, you became an MGRA director in 1995 and chairman in 2001. You saw the transition from Olympic to the Meadows. It's been very successful. What's the future of the Meadows?
Well, the future looks very bright. Neil, as I said, if you look back on 1995, 1996 when we were kicked out of Olympic Park, we were all pretty traumatised at then, but it's really a godsend because now that we got our own place at the Meadows, especially since we switched to Saturday night racing a few years back, it's really gone on in leaps and bounds, and very good patronage every week. Financially, we're doing very well, and with GRV's assistance, we keep improving the place all the time, and plans are at the moment to actually increase the size of the upstairs dining room amongst the other things. And yeah, and I can see, you know, we probably won't see the full benefit of it, but all the land that we've got there in future years will be very, very valuable. So.
Certainly will. It's a really bright future for the club, which has gone ahead in leaps and bounds. As you say, Saturday night's been tremendously successful and has that appeal in the northern suburbs, hasn't it?
It certainly has. It's an area where you know, there's not much to do really for the local people, and it's a lot of young families, and they really, you know, probably mortgaged to the hilt, and they haven't got that much ready cash, so they come there and it's a cheap night out and they enjoy themselves. And what I like about it is we get a lot of young people. We have a face painter there every week, and the kids look forward to it. They bring their parents for that, and that's where our future lies, I guess, with young people.
At the turn of the century, Eddie stepped up his backyard greyhound operation and bought a property in Tarneit, just outside of Melbourne.
Well, it's been tough actually. The last 5 years, I would say to people when I only had a couple of dogs at Brunswick, used to probably have more success than I have now here. But the last few months have seemed to have turned around, and I've got half a dozen racing at the moment, and they're showing a bit of promise. So yeah, looking forward to the future.
And as they say, behind every great man, there is a great woman. And that certainly is the case with Eddie's wife, Olympia.
She's a great, you know, backbone to me. She never shakes the issues, does all the hard work, and mine's a little bit, but that's all right. We can put up with that. But she loves the whelping side of it. She loves having pups. In fact, we had a little whelp 2 days ago, and so yeah, that's been great.
So the future, Ed, more of the same?
Yeah, at the moment I'm really enjoying it, and while the health holds up, I can't see me doing anything else, to be honest.
Yes, he's a great man, Eddie Carroll.